Today, we're talking about the 2-5-1, 2-5-1. And I'm going to attempt to demystify this whole 2-5-1 thing. Now, let's understand something here. This is just a basic way to get to one. We're trying to get to the one chord. There are a lot of ways to get to a one chord. You know, you'll have a lot of substitutions, substituting two for something else, and tritone substitution and all that. Don't worry about that thing, because it's hard to understand what that means if you don't know the basic of the 2-5-1. And what I'm going to show you today should help you out with that. So, say you have 2-5-1, one measure of 2, one measure of 5, and one measure of 1. So what do you play on that, and how does that work? How can you get into that and do some soloing on it? Well, it's quite simple. Let's say I'm gonna show you what 2-5-1 means to me. I don't even see 2 when there's a 2-5-1. I don't even see 2. My whole improvisation, when I see something I see a 2 and a 5 in a chord, because for me, improvisation is based off the 5 and the 1, and how you get to 5 and how you get to 1. Everything up to 5 is just a lot of substitution of things, but 5 is always dominant of something. So that means that's setting up the key for you to get back home, right? I know I might sound crazy right now, but let me get to it. So when I'm improvising, I only look at 5. And let me show you why I don't worry about 2 when I'm improvising, because I know that I'm trying to get to 1. Look down here. Wait, let me get something to point with. Let me see here. Let me try this. Look down here. Well, you know how to spell G7, right? G, B, D, F. That's the G7 chord. G, B, D, F. Now let me do this. 1. That's 1, 3, 5, 7. G, B, D, F. What am I doing here? What am I showing you here? Let me put this down. You may have heard of the 9 chord. Let me do these little lines like that. 9 chord. This is 9. This is 11. And this would be 13. You know, if you're in jazz band, you may have seen 13 chord, a flat 13 and all this sort of thing. You may have seen that kind of stuff. What I want to show you is this. Here we have 1, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5, 7. 1, 3, 5, 7. But what's this? Let's start on 5. 5, 7, 9, 11. D, F, A, C. You see where I'm going? 5, 7. This is all the G7 chord here. All of this is G7. D, F, A, C. D, F. How do you spell D minor 7th chord? D, F, A, C. The D7 is just a part of the G7 chord. I've been doing this for years. When I improvise, I don't even, unless they have some kind of substitution in here in the beginning, unless they're doing some kind of other business, it's still based off 5. It's still based off 5. So when I'm improvising, I'm looking at the G7 the whole time, because there may be something. Now G may not directly go to C. It may tritone or do something else to the C. But I'm just showing you the basics so that you can understand when you see other things going on. You have to know that everything is based off the 5 chord. Everything. No, don't let me say everything. 90%, I'd say, is always based off 5 going to 1. 5 chord dominant. That's why it's called dominant. It's the 5 chord. It's the dominant chord. And it sets us up to get back to 1. So when I'm improvising and there's 2, there's no 2 in my mind. So let me show you what I mean. Let me get my horn and let me play, like, say we have, well, 2 measures, 1 measure of 1, 1 measure of 2, 1 measure of 5, right? Or basically 2 measures of 5. That's what I'm saying. So if I'm improvising and I see that going on, Say I might do something like this. I'm basing everything off G7. I knew that was gonna happen. Drop my case. So I'm practicing on landing on 1, 3, 5, or 7 of the C chord because that's where I'm going. So I landed on 5. That's good. How did I get there? Well, I played in the key C. I played a scale starting on G, and I played 1 octave and 1 note past the octave, which is F. When I got to F, I played this line, F-A-C-E. I arpeggiated that. Then I came down the scale from E down to G. So about everyone's thinking about 2. I based that whole line off the G7 chord. I played the scale. When I got to the F, I played that right there. Then I came down the scale. Let me try something. Okay, so that time I landed on the 7th of the C major chord. I started on B, came down 1 octave and a note past the octave, which is A. And I played A, C, E, G, then came down the scale. And that landed me on B. And I'm trying to make this as simple as possible so you can understand when you're soloing, you can really, this gives you a better understanding of 5 and 1. I hope this is helpful. But here is where it really comes into play. Let me show you something. In the minor key, and that's when a lot of students get mixed up on a 2-5-1 in the minor key. Let me put my horn down. 2-5-1 in the minor key. So let's say, let me see if I got that out here somewhere. Okay, here we go. Wait, I got things going on here. Hold on a second. 2-5-1. Here we go. This is the minor key. We're in the key of A minor. So in the key of A minor, the 2 is B minor, or I should have put B minor half diminished. B minor flat 5. So we have B, D, F natural, A, because that's a B minor 7, half diminished. I should have just put half diminished 7. I got that in the wrong place. But B minor 7. Then it's going to E. But now, what you see a lot of times is when they go to E, it's not going to be spelled E-G. It's going to be spelled E-G sharp because they need that 5. They need that dominant chord to bring us to 1. Dominant chords are so important. You have to understand, you know, let me come off track just a little bit. Some students that go to some of these jazz camps and they come back to me and we start having lessons and they're told to play this scale on that chord or this scale on that chord. And that is so, it doesn't make sense to me because you have to find, if you're basing your solo off of the scale of a scale, you have to know what's going on, at least 2 or 3 or 4 bar phrases before you figure out what scale to use. You don't want to put that, for example, if I'm in the key of A flat major and if I see a 3-6 C minor to F, I'm not going to play that C like it's Dorian. I'm going to work that C minor to F as if I'm in the key of A flat. Right. I'll get into some of that later on in another video. But you don't want to just come up with stick a scale into a chord. You have to understand what's going on with the phrase to find out, what type of mode you're going to use, right? So right here, the 5 chord is E, G sharp, because they want that 5 dominant feel, right? E, G sharp, B, D, F. And what you see a lot of times in the minor key is you're going to see either a flat 9 or a raised 9, right? Because it's not going to be E, G sharp, B, D, F sharp. It's going to be E, G sharp, B, D, F, which would be the flat 9, or a G, which is the raised 9. That brings me back to this whole thing. Watch this. This whole thing is going to be a G7. A G7 all day long, because we already know B, D, F, A. Where's my B, D, F, A? Where is it? B, D, F, A. We already know B, D, F, A, which is a flat 9 here. B, D, F, A is part of G7 all day long. They had to put the G sharp in there to make that dominant feel. So when you're improvising, all I do is when I see something like this, when I'm improvising, I just add the G sharp in there and the G, and it sounds so hip. So in this case, if I'm doing improvisation, and I'll just add the G sharp in there if I'm going to. I'm going. What did I do just now? I played the scale coming down. Remember, whole thing is based off G7. A is relative to what major chord? C. All right? So we're still in the key of C pretty much. So now I'm going to play the scale coming down to B, but I'm going to add that G sharp in there because I want that dominant feel to stay. That's a G sharp, and I'm going to play a G too. And when I get to that G sharp, what am I doing? I'm playing G sharp, B, D, F. And then coming down the scale to C. So this is really when it really comes into play when you start dealing with the minor key. This whole thing, these two measures are based off the G7 going to A minor. That's how I see it. A lot of people may not see it that way, but if you're looking for an easy way to understand what's happening on the 2-5-1 in the minor key, this is how I look at it. So I hope this helped you. This is how I go at it. And don't forget, just make sure when you're trying to improvise, find the dominant function. The dominant function is somewhere in there. Also, when I eliminate the 2, it helps me to change keys a lot easier when I'm just dealing with the 5. Okay, I hope this video helped you with 2-5-1, and I'll see you on the next one.